Hello everyone. So today, I think we're gonna build a web application using AWS Translate, AWS Lambda, and all these functions. So one second, let me check if it is recording. Cool. Okay. So today we are gonna build AWS Translate application. Basically, we are gonna use all these services, like you can see here. So in the client we have our React app, which basically takes an input from one language and it will convert into another language. Everything like will be in the Node.js Lambda function that we are gonna discuss it in the future. So in the client side, we have a React application which consists of an input field, just an input field. Obviously, you can do it with S3 or as well. You can deploy a static HTML file into a S3 bucket and you can make it client as well. But for now, that I also want to include Amplify as well. So I'll also be like showing you like how to deploy your front end application using AWS Amplify, and this is like kind of structure that we are gonna build. So your client will be your React application, which will on click of a submit, it will call API gateway, it will trigger your API gateway, and this API gateway will trigger your Lambda function, and this Lambda function will in turn have some code to translate from one language to another language. Basically it will invoke this AWS translate, and we are gonna also like configure this IAM role for this Lambda function, and this is like a very important step. Otherwise this Lambda function cannot be like it cannot communicate with AWS translate, and we just get a lot of errors, right? So this is going to be our architecture that we are going to build. So all the links or all the codes, everything will be provided in the description. uh, Link to that GitHub repository will be included in the description box. Go check it out and can complete this application. Obviously this will be just a simple web application. Obviously you can include a lot of things into it and you can make it a very big application. So let's start with uh, our API gateway. I think first building an API gateway, or no, I think first making a Lambda will make sense, because in the API gateway we need to give which Lambda function to be triggered. So I think we can start with Lambda, but before we like move on to Lambda, we need to make sure that IAM role is configured properly, right? So we'll make a Lambda function. Before that, we'll also make a IAM role. So let me navigate to my AWS management console. Basically sign in with your credentials. Okay, so now this is the home page, right? So first navigate to IAM. Sorry, in the IAM search for role. Sorry, don't like this. I mean, like, yeah. So now we are gonna create a new role. So you like you wanna create role for AWS service, and the service will be Lambda, right? So yeah, hello Lambda functions, yeah, that should be fine. And now here you need to give two things. One is the CloudWatch logs. Basically you will find logs, CloudWatch logs access, full access. So basically you need to give that, because so like when an Lambda function is triggered, it will make sure that if any errors are there, it will push to the CloudWatch log, so that the debugging becomes so easy for us. So make sure that you're giving this CloudWatch logs full access. It makes our development process like really simple. Suppose we have any errors, it becomes super simple to identify where we are getting that error, right? So now we have a CloudWatch log full access, and remember that we are gonna use like this Lambda function is gonna communicate with translate, so we need to give all the permissions that are required to like communicate with translate. So for now that like I'll say like translate, yeah. So we have a translate full access as well. So click on here, right? Now, yeah, I think CloudWatch logs and translate full access is fine, but then we need to give a specific function called as Lambda basic execution rule, because it is generally included with all the Lambda functions that we are going to create, right? So this is mandatory that whenever you create a Lambda function, whenever you create a role specifically for a Lambda function, this AWS Lambda basic execution role is compulsory, right? So in the permission boundary, nothing to change here. So basically we have added three things in total. The first thing is a CloudWatch log full access, easier for debugging and all that stuff. We have created a AWS Lambda basic execution rule, which is in turn provided with all the roles that are going to use with Lambda function, right? And then we have also provided translate full access. Obviously, like if you see, translate read access is fine, but then we don't want to take any risk, so we are giving translate full access, so that we don't get any errors or that, right? So after that, so we just click on create. It will show a preview page, and it will also show us what are the permissions that we are given here. So we have AWS Lambda basic execution role, all this stuff, right? Make sure that these three things are really added, right? So I'll give a name to this role. I will say translate translate access role. Okay, right. What this allows Lambda function to call AWS translate. This should be fine, right? So suppose when you are working on with another project, and you can simply use this role instead of creating again and again. So description basically helps in solving the problem, right? So allows Lambda functions to call, remember this translate access role, right? So once we are done, we'll just click on create role. So now that we have created role, our next step is to like create a Lambda function, right? Now go to Lambda function, and so we'll click on create a function, and we'll choose order from scratch. So we'll give a translate function. Okay, so make sure that your Node.js is 16x. Obviously you can also use 20xx, but but then you have to like I would say it is not that stable. You might get some errors, so use some older versions, Node.js 16 or 18x. But for now, I'm using Node.js 16x. We should be fine. So in the default execution role, you have to uh, select a role which we have created earlier. So right. So what was that role? I think translate access role, right? So this was the thing, translate access role. Right. So this was given to it, and we actually changed the default execution role to our role, right? So now this is fine, right? Just given a name, we have chosen runtime, and we have also attached a role, and we'll just click on create function, right? I think we should see our Lambda function within a few seconds. Yeah. So okay, now we have our editor ready, right? So here you have to copy paste the code that I provide here. So let me open my Visual Studio Code, and let me navigate to that. So let me click on open new window. Okay, so it should be in this AWS codes. Yeah. I think it is not here. Let me yeah, sorry. I think I have provided this in my GitHub only. Let me navigate to my GitHub, and let me check if it is there. So let me go. Yeah. Um, translate that. Okay. Okay. Okay, sorry. I think that was in another folder. Let me open that. Open recent, and that should be translate app, right? Yeah. I don't know whether it is a glitch or something. Every time I open my VS Code, I'll not be able to see this icon where I can browse my files. So every time I have to close this and open it. Still I'm unable to see it. But why? If you know any solution, please comment it down, like how to resolve this issue. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll again open this um, more, and I have this right. So open folder. Oh god. I don't understand why I'm unable to find this thing. Guys, I'm wasting a lot of time here. Okay, for now I'll try to navigate to that folder and open it. So let me get my code first of all. So I think in the SASI folder in the pages I have this backend code. So let me open it and let me copy paste, and let me go to this and just copy paste it. Right, basically this is doing nothing but it is taking the source language, like when you type in that input box what is the language that you're going to type, and this is the target language that you want to change it to. So obviously you can change a lot of things here. You can actually configure a lot of things. You can write a lot of code to take the input from the field itself, key which language they want to go convert it into. You can obviously do a lot of things into this lambda function, and this will act as a template, and all these things will be shared in the GitHub as well. Right, now we have this. Right, so we have to click on deploy to see the changes. Yeah, now I think we have deployed this successfully, right? And yeah, so let me navigate here, and we have successfully done with IAM role. We have successfully done with AWS Lambda setup as well. Now we need to link this Lambda function to the API gateway, but to link it we need to have a API gateway, right? So let's go to API gateway. Let's create an API gateway first. So choose an API type. We will change REST API. New API. I will say translate API. All these things are default. Create API. Right. Since you have created API, now you will create a resource slash translate. Again, you can like do a lot of things here. You can put a lot of things that you want to do here, but I'm just putting a simple URL slash translate. Right, I'm clicking on create resource. Now my thing, like now my URL would be something AWS/translate. When somebody, like when somebody clicks or hits this URL, this will be some code, a random code will be provided by AWS. That is not up to us. But when somebody clicks /translate, which is the Lambda function that you're gonna trigger, is what now we are going to configure. So /translate is the URL, right? Now what you need to do is click on translate and click on create method, and here you need to choose a Lambda function that you are going to trigger when somebody hits the URL /translate, and here you will choose a post method, because typically you have to take the data, right? So make sure that you are clicking this Lambda proxy integration, because you get an event object. Obviously we'll discuss it in the Lambda function thing, so that should be fine. So here you need to choose a Lambda function that we have just created now. This should be translate function, and this is by default. Obviously you can change it as well, but I'm keeping it very simple, right? So we'll click on create method. Okay, now we have our API gateway in place. When somebody clicks or hits the translate URL, it the Lambda function will be executed and it will send the response, right? So now we have these things in place, right? Now we'll click on deploy API, and we'll select a stage called new stage, and for now we'll put it dev. We click on deploy, right? Now we have our development stage ready, right? Sorry. So go to this URL, right? So click on post, and you will get the invoke URL. I said something, you will get a thing by AWS. So this is something that AWS has provided, and we have just appended a /translate, right? So now I will use Postman to check whether it is working fine or not. So for that, let me go to Postman and create a new HTTP request, and this would be my post method, right? And this would be my invoke URL, and body would be raw JSON, and I have to send text because I've configured in backend code. I have configured that I will be taking text. So I will say hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Okay, okay. So I'm sending this. Now the response should be there. Let's see. Yeah, translated text is bonjour, comment something, I don't know, but if you see like closely, let me go to my Lambda function. So this is your translate function, right? Right, so your source language is English, and your FR, like what is this language? FR in French, I think. FR language, yeah, French, right? French. So we are converting it to French. So obviously you can change it here, right? So yeah, okay. So this looks cool. Our API is working. Our when this is a client, right? So the Postman client is calling your API gateway, basically invoking the API gateway. When API gateway is like hit, it is calling your AWS Lambda function, and AWS Lambda function, since we have given it permissions of AWS Translate, it is using AWS Translate, and it is converting, and in response it is sending us a translated text, right? This is the entire architecture that we have built. Now since this is working fine, let me go to my React app. Again, I'm facing the issue. Let me have to resolve this somehow. So let me close this. Now we'll do simple things. We'll create a React app, or else I would say, so basically we have to do everything from scratch, or else I would say I'll create a new React application so that it looks really good. So I think it will be, helpful for you as well. So yeah, and I want to show like Amplify, right? So I think it would be better if I create a new React app itself. Okay, so let me go to VS Code. Okay, open folder. Let us create a new application, React application, and let me show you how things work enough. So click on a new folder. I would say, um, translate applications. Okay, I will give it a name like this. But the problem here is I have to wait a long time to get that dependencies installed. So that is an issue again. No problem, I'll make sure that it is getting cut in the final video. So see, now we are able to get this right. I don't know why, but I'm facing this issue. When I close my VS Code, I don't see this option. I don't know why. If anyone knows that, like how to resolve that issue and all that stuff, you can just tell in the comments. So we'll create React app, npx create React app, and I'll say trans translate app. So let me wait for the dependencies to get installed. So it will create a React application. Basically here I'll just copy paste the code, but I'll show you how the entire deployment process. Okay, so we have our React app in place. So let me navigate to GitHub now. We'll just bring the code that we have done earlier. Actually, I've made this project uh, entirely yesterday, but since I wanted to make a clear demo, I have started building it again. So yeah, in the SRC folder, create a new file, uh, trans like translation form. This is a form basically that we are gonna take input from translation form.js, and just navigate here. You will find it in the pages. So navigate here and you just, yeah, we'll copy paste here. We'll write. So this is nothing but a simple thing, like it just takes an input text. It'll just call that, like this API, right? So again, this was something which I've created yesterday, right? But then we have got a new URL to invoke. So make sure that you are making this change, otherwise your code is not gonna work. So we have to come here and what is the URL that we have hit previously. So again, I have to go to, let me duplicate this tab. Sorry, I have muted, unmute, and just duplicate. Let me go to API gateway. Let me go to the dev stage, translate API. We have this post method. We have this, sorry, not this. We have to go to stages, and then we have our dev stage. We have translate. We have post. We have the invoke URL. Just copy it here, paste it over here. So what this is doing is, see again, I have given this text attribute, right? Make sure that when you are using your postman, it should be text itself. No, when you say text 2, it should be text 2 only, right? Make sure that these attributes are really working fine, right? and your Node.js, like whenever you are using it in the backend, I think your backend is having this attribute called text. It is sending like what you can say is, it is sending text as input for your translate, right? Make sure that these words are matching with your backend functions, otherwise it is not gonna work. So so make sure that these things are clear enough. So it is just taking a input, it is using on change handler to set the real time, like sentence, and on click it is calling a function called hand translate. What this hand translate does is, it it sends the input text wrapped in a text um, data member, and it will invoke this URL, right? So this was basically that we were doing from Postman. Sorry. So basically this is the thing that we're sorry for the disturbance. So this was basically that we were doing in the Postman itself, and now we are just enhancing its UI. That's it. So this is the code that we have provided, and if you see here, currently you don't have backend code here. I'll make sure once this video is published, you will have that code as well, right? So this is the thing. Okay, now let me run this now. So how will you run this React application is by saying npm start. Okay, npm start is missing. Okay, missing script npm start. Okay, now we just need to navigate to that folder. Sorry. So we need to go to this SRC translate app. SRC, basically we have all the functions, modules, everything in there, right? So we have to navigate to it, and then we have to click on npm start. And when you run npm start, you'll find a lot of errors, right? Yeah, I think you'll not find, because we have not added it in the app.js function. So basically we need to add that. Okay, let me go to this app.js file. uh, Let me remove all this component that was provided by default. Now let me put this translation form component. Yeah, if you see here, your translation form component is imported from here, right? So now I think I should run this. So it is already compiling. It has detected some changes, so it is compiling again, right? So I think it is, yeah. So now, yeah, this is ready, and obviously you can invoke, like obviously you can modify all these things. So we'll go to inspect, and let me see the console and enter text to translate. Hi, how are you? Right. So error translating text, basically you will find a lot of errors here. You will see that access to XML HTTP request translate from origin has blocked by CORS. This is one of the errors, and this is also one of the errors. Basically this error is coming only because that uh, that our local host is unable to make a call to translate because of CORS issue. So to fix this, we have two methods, but for now, to make things work, we'll try using this CORS plugin. So let me just do that, and let me just show you that thing. So let me go to this. I actually have that installed in this profile, so let me go to this. So now we have to install this CORS plugin. So just search for it, and you will find this plugin, and click on, and now make go to inspect button, and now click on console, right? For like, make sure that you are refreshing it again. So let me say, hi, how are you, right? How are you? Translate. I think we have got the response, right? This is because of your previously the request is getting failed because of a CORS issue. You can fix it in the API gateway as well. So we'll discuss it in another video, but for now, to make the things work, we'll use a CORS plugin. So yeah, this looks fine for me. Now, as the things are getting done, now I think it's time we deploy this application onto our like Amplify, right? So we'll do one thing. First we'll push this into GitHub. So the way you do it is, so you click on this symbol, you will see that two things are being changed here. So we'll say translate app, just give a commit message, translate app function or something, click on commit, and when you click on commit, you see a button called publish branch and create a public repository. GitHub repository already exists. Acha. Okay, I think I got messed up because so translate app already exists. I think I've created this application with the same name. Oh shit, it is a very big issue then. Oh my god. See, this is the thing that I've done wrong. Okay, I'll do one thing. Um, Again, I can't see this folder button. Again, that is an issue. Shit. I'll try to change this thing. So I'll just say translate app v1. Okay. Okay. Now on the GitHub, I think we have some uncommitted changes or staged changes. Yeah, we have published branch, we have published to GitHub public repository, and the things are getting done, getting published. Yeah, successfully published, right? So this has been published now, and once let me navigate to my GitHub and let me check if it is really has done it part or not. Let me go to all my repositories, show more. Yeah, this is done. So now let me go to Amplify. So let me go to Amplify. Amplify makes it super simple. It acts just like Netlify. Both things are very very simple and easy to use. So we'll click on get started. We'll choose host your web app. We'll say uh, we'll say GitHub. We'll say continue. Again, you have a lot of option to deploy the things onto Amplify, but for now, since we have deployed our application onto GitHub, it is better to use these things, right? So select a repository. Actually, uh, you don't get this view. You will ask you will be asked to authorize with GitHub. You need to provide access to GitHub by signing in on your GitHub account, and you have to accept that GitHub is gonna be used by Translate, right? After the agreement, you will be redirected to this page, and I'm able to see this only the Translate app which I've created earlier. Is because that I have made an agreement with AWS Amplify to use only this give access to only this repository. Now I want to modify the permissions. Let me check if it is possible to give this permission to this. So let me say confirm, and so here you can again change. You are gonna give repository access like to all the repositories or to only select repositories. Like previously I have given access to only this thing. Now since I have created a new repository, I have to give it to translate v1 as well. So I'll browse for that repository. Where is it? So this thing, right? So let me click on save, and once I have done this, I think I have to navigate back. Let me refresh the page as well, right? So yeah, GitHub, continue. So select a repository. Now the app even is ready, right? So select a branch. Obviously it will be a master branch. Next. And we don't need to check anything. Click on next, save and deploy. And that's it. We're going to deploy our first web application on AWS Amplify, right? Uh, so basically after this deployment, we'll see how things are working, whether our translate app is working really fine or not, and all this stuff, right? So basically it does in 3 steps: provisioning, building, and deploying. So obviously if your build is successful, you will be able to like this thing, you will be able to get this. See, for now you are getting this because your build is not successful till now. Once the build is successful, you will be able to see your application running here. So we don't have any backend. It detects that no backend environment association is found, so continuing. It, build failed to complete successfully. Why? I didn't expect this, but why it is. One just entity for npm ci. npm one depreciated. I think it is because due to some warnings, maybe. So let me go to this function. Let me rerun this application. Let me see what is the errors that we are getting. Just navigate to this. Sassy npm start. I think it is due to, I don't know why, but yeah, we'll resolve this issue. So I think this is because of this thing. It's basically because of this warning. Why is it happening? So yeah, that was the issue, right? Okay, we'll do one thing. I think we have messed up here, so let me do that. So we're gonna return. So we'll say first of all RAFCE. Okay, so we'll say translation form. Right. Now if I run that, I should not actually get that error. Let me see. Control C S npm start. We check. I think I should not put const function there. Yeah. Okay. Again we are getting that error. I don't know why, but for now it should get. Let me check if by running it again. Basically I should not get the warnings that we are getting. Obviously warnings, uh, we can get warnings, but these kind of warnings are not entertained. So again I still get this error. No, I think it's cool. We are not getting any error, right? So I think we are good to go. We can deploy it, right? So let me once close this and open, because I just want to see the folder structure, whether am I doing anything wrong or not. So app.js, we are just including this translation form, and that is being from here, and that is also working really fine, right? So we'll do control C. We'll try to run once again. Run terminal, new terminal. Just a second, let me navigate to sarc npm start. Okay, I think this looks fine. Let me push it to GitHub. Updated, right? Commit. Actually, okay, this looks cool, right? Now let me go to Amplify, right? So let me just go to view, not view. Just go to new app, build an app, host web app, GitHub, continue. Select a repository, translate app v1. Okay. It is actually giving a warning that another application is also using the repository, but fine, we can just go it, right? We click on next. This is save and deploy. This build is really important. So just cloning the repository, just detecting the branches, just doing its thing. I think backend is fine. It should not give any error in the backend, but I don't know like whether it gives a positive thing to frontend or not. Let me check. I think it might give an error, I feel, because we have some uh, parse errors or something. So it is again saying that failed to compile, module not found, cannot resolve. Acha, okay, I think that was issue, man. That was the issue. That was the issue. So we didn't install Axios, and that was the reason the build is getting failed. So so now we found the actual error. Pip install and sorry npm install Axios, and right. We'll also run a build command, npm run build. Obviously, if this build folder is not required, let me commit the changes. Shit, I think I have to give a commit message that let me wait for it. Yeah, let me stop this thing. Let me say install Axios, but I don't know why. Okay, I think it is working because Axios is installed using npm command, so it is using it. But then we didn't add this into our thing, right? So sync changes. Okay. Let me go to Amplify. Still building. Don't know. We'll do one thing. We'll delete tab so that we don't get any conflicts in between. So we'll also delete this as well. translate happen. So this was also a build failure, right? Yeah, this was also a build failure. So we'll say delete app. So we'll get started. Host your web app. GitHub. Translate app v1. Master. Next. And there we go. I think now it should not throw any errors. The previous one was due to Axios error, right? I think it should solve the issue. Apart from that, I think we are not using any extra library. We are just using Axios to make a request to our backend. Now I think it should be successful. Let's see. Okay, I think we are at a very crucial process. So there was no that I think, yeah, our build is almost successful. We didn't find that error, right? We didn't. Okay, I think it is successful. I think that is successful. Yes, it is successful. So now let me go to this URL, and we have our app running live, right? So we have our front end deployed onto Amplify, right? And what were the mistakes that we have done? We have not installed the required libraries. We have not installed. We have used Axios, and the reason why Axios is working on in our local environment is we have installed Axios through npm, right? So it was installed globally, and even if you are not installing Axios for your particular application as well, it is still installed on a global space, and all your projects in your system will be able to use the Axios. And that was the main issue. We were unable to detect it in the local because the Axios is installed globally. So generally people say that whenever you are installing any particular library or a package, make sure that you are using npx because it is done only locally, right? That was the main thing that why people will tell you to use npx instead of npm. When you use npx, it will be the package or the library will be installed only for that particular project. If you are using npm, all these things will be installed globally. Even if you are not installing application, sorry, even if you are not installing any packages for that instance for that project, the since we have not installed Axios here, but it was working fine in our local environment. But when we tried to deploy, it didn't find any Axios, right? So it threw an error. So that was the main reason why our deployment failed for 2 times. So I think you have learned a lot of things here, and even me, like even I have learned a lot of things here. So let me check if it is working or not. And if you are smart enough, you might know this will not work. Error translating text, and the reason is you obviously know that we've also observed this thing in the uh, previous local, like when we tried to do it in the local as well, we found something as CORS error. So to bypass this CORS, we use something called as this extension, right? So now when I give hi, how are you, it should really work now. Let me check. So it works, right? So that's it. Cheers. And we have deployed a first translation application, right? We have seen a lot of things now. We how this communication between Lambda, translate and API gateway, how these things works, how architecture is entirely developed here. We have also seen this, right? How our client is able to make a request to API gateway. We have configured API gateway to use AWS Lambda. We have configured IAM role to use AWS Lambda. We have written Lambda function to communicate with the AWS Translate. So I think this is a very cool app. You can add a lot of functionalities into it. You can change your Node.js function like anything. You can optimize your front end, right? So it will be a very good project if you take it seriously and build on top of it, right? So I hope it's clear and you were able to understand all the things. So that's it for this video. Thank you. Bye bye.